And we are live. What's going on, everyone? It's Talks with Kenny here today. It's Live with Kenny, episode 47. In today's episode, we're going to talk about, is cognitive dissonance affecting the culture war? And I believe so. In many cases, we're going to go into a quick example. Cognitive dissonance is the discomfort a person feels when their behavior does not align with their values or beliefs. Cognitive dissonance is a psychological phenomenon that occurs when a person holds two contradictory beliefs at the same time. COVID was a big example about this contradictory kind of circumstances. And I believe that, there's a lot of various stats and statistics based on whatever you want to believe in. There's stats that show that liberals tend to have more mental health issues than conservatives. Now, I'm not trying to say that if you're a liberal, you're mentally ill. I'm just saying a lot of mentally ill people happen to be liberal. And I think that kind of explains the cognitive dissonance that a lot of people experience, that they believe and do things that are not contrary to what they state that they believe, right? Anti-racist. Oh, we're not racist, but discrimination, reverse discrimination is not discrimination. Like, these people, it's essentially it's a scientific way of defining double speak. Up is down, right is left, true is false, false is true, women can be men, men can be women. Like, I think cognitive dissonance can explain a lot of these things. And I think the source of what led a lot of people into cognitive dissonance is our school system. If you've been new to this channel, I believe that education is the biggest problem, not the biggest problem, but is one of the most important issues in the future of this country. As many socialists, communists, it's in their writings, a lot of lefties seem to understand this. This is why they overwhelmingly dominate academia, is that if you can control the children, you control the future. And I think that signs of this kind of indoctrination was been creeping up in our schools. And I went to Thomas Sowell, our tried, true, and trusted Thomas Sowell, and he highlighted this problem and this phenomenon since the 90s. So this is an interview from 1993. Fake school grades have ruined the school system, and it shows how a lot of the trends and fads that teachers adopt and consider, they've been pushing this idea of feelings over facts. Oh, I value how you feel about something rather than what you know about something. And as an educational institution, they're supposed to teach you about knowledge. They're supposed to give you knowledge. They're supposed to give you accurate information. They're supposed to give you the skills and ability to arrive at conclusions on your own without them helping you. But it seems what school has taught many of our students, many of our citizens, is that they have to abide by a certain authority and to trust the authorities. And I think this was been going on with our school system. So in this video, we're going to highlight and watch some things that Thomas Sowell has pointed out since the 1990s about how teachers have been focusing and wasting their time on unproductive things that's not actually helping our students become smarter, more critically thinking, or more knowledgeable about themselves and the world around them. Let's take a look.
What's going on here seems rather curious in the face of rising grades and elevated expectations about schools' abilities to perform and students' academic achievement.
Yes, back in 1966, there were about twice as many C's as A's given out in the public schools in the United States. By the late 70s, there were twice as many A's as C's. So you have this long period during which all sorts of test scores are going down. At this very same time, grades are going up.
Is that going on at both the elementary, secondary level, and college level?
At the college level.
Mm-hmm.
So he was highlighting grade inflation here. But if you start thinking about it, let's say you got work assignments for, gender identity. Let's say you get stuff about LGBTQ stuff, right? So the teachers have been teaching kids essentially how to obey. Essentially, I forgot there was a scientific test where you can condition an individual to have certain beliefs, certain understanding by training them exactly. Hey, I give you a carrot every time you do something. Positive reinforcement. Oh, you got a good grade for repeating the propaganda back to the teacher. And essentially, all they really did was condition our students to be more obedient. I want to say sheep, but it made them more obedient to people of authority. And that's why I think a lot of people fall for the fallacy of authority, right? They don't really quite question authority. According to the science, according to this expert, I have a PhD. You don't have a PhD. I'm not a biologist. That's why I can't tell you what a woman is, right? All these kind of appeals to authority has been kind of conditioned into us as a culture. And I think one of the ways that cognitive dissonance has really come about in our current culture is the fact that a lot of people can't arrive to conclusions on their own without appealing to some type of authority, right? They can't tell you, oh, look, empirically, here's the facts, here it is. And even if you do give someone the facts, this is where cognitive dissonance come in, they will not believe the facts, or they think, hey, those facts don't sound right, without giving some type of contrary evidence that speaks or instantiates the opposite or their own opposing view of the facts. They just feel, oh, that don't feel right. It can't be that the black man got fired from his job because he wasn't performing to expectation. It must have been because of racism. He is the only black guy there. It seems like people are trying to find a narrative and then use facts to kind of validate that narrative instead of the other way around, where your facts produce a narrative. Oh, he probably got fired because of low expectation. This black man got denied a bank loan because on average, black people have lower credit scores than other races of people. So it would stand to reason that black people will be denied a loan at a higher rate than other groups of people because on average they have a lower credit score. No one wants to accept that. It seems like people are trying to arrive to conclusions to find something to blame instead of finding something to understand. Instead of trying to find the root cause of issues, they're just looking for something to blame issues on. And race is the biggest one of them all. And I think race produced the most cognitive dissonance in our culture and in our political discussion. But let's continue with the video.
In the entire decade of the 1980s, the percentage of A's at Yale University never fell below 40%.
So you're saying there's a great inflation going on, and there are declining test scores.
Yes. And this is part of the deception, because if people knew exactly what was happening, I don't think the test scores could have kept going down as long as they did. But everyone was told, they saw the wonderful grades that kids were bringing home. They were told glowing things. When I was teaching back in the 1960s, I kept hearing that this was the brightest and best generation that we'd had. And I kept saying, they don't seem to be enrolling in my courses. And it was only into the 70s before the word came out that the data showed just the opposite of what the educators were saying.
And now it would seem that a good many educators are in agreement with you when they talk about the serious straits that our American schools are in.
They agree in the sense only that this kind of talk gets them more money.
Yep. They always think, oh, just throw more money at the problem. No, throwing more money at government schools is like throwing money into a fire. You're just wasting your time, right? And in the 1993, January 18, 1993, that Thomas Sowell alarmed, tried to bring awareness to the issues. Like, hey, like, yeah, your kids are getting higher grades on average compared to like kids of previous past, but the work is not of the same quality, right? And this is something that Destiny and I remember Candace Owens was arguing about. Oh, all these kids are going to college. They must be doing something right. And Candace Owens pointed out, hey, these people can't read at the same degree as people in the past that used to. In the past, competitive to the past, we're not as knowledgeable. We're not as well read. We don't write as well compared to people in the past. But all of a sudden, everyone's on touching. Look, we're the most educated generation in history. A larger percentage of Americans have college degrees. But then if you look at the college degrees, gender studies, feminist theory, is a bunch of nonsense. It's a bunch of fluff. Music. Now, not to like take a dump on these degrees, but these degrees don't really teach you anything about like knowledge or understanding of the world. And these people will use their credentials, and this is the worst thing that college has ever done, is essentially bestowed upon people a certain type of credibility, a certain type of authority. And people will be like, oh, I have a degree in communications and this, and you're wrong on this issue. Instead of fighting on the facts, on the information, on the actual points being made, they rather attack the messenger because they believe they have some credentials that validate their worldview of a certain field. If someone happens to be a biologist and they believe in transgender identity, they'll push that as a narrative and say, oh, I'm the biologist in the room. Who are you? You're Matt Walsh? You only graduated high school. I graduated with my PhD in biology, and I say there's more than 2 genders. According to scientists, there's speculation that there's more than 2 genders. No, I have seen no evidence of that. And a lot of this cognitive dissonance that we're affecting, it was being spotted even in 1993 by Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell saw this in the 1960s. Oh, these kids are so smart coming up in the 60s. How come they're not rolling into my economics class? Why are they taking the easier classes? Why are they taking feminist studies? Why are they taking gender studies? It makes no sense. If the kids are getting smarter, if the kids are getting better grades compared to generations past, why are they not taking as much of the hard sciences as compared to before? And this was a trend that we saw in 1993. But when conservatives holler, oh my God, look, we see a problem, we see a problem. What the liberals say, what the centrists say, oh, you're exaggerating the conservative. Man, that's not happening in schools. It's the what's it called? What we call it? The slippery slope. 1993. This was what Thomas Sowell was saying. And now in 2024, it's obvious to everyone to see. Look at the trans issues. Look at what the teachers are pushing, right? But those kids are still getting good grades though. Your daughter come back home with straight A's, but you don't know some of the assignments was about gender theory, right? Pronouns, LGBTQ, sexuality, how well can she regurgitate the information that was given to her by her teacher. And this is what our education system in America has become. Instead of teaching people how to think, it's teaching people how to memorize the status quo. And this is the reality. This is what I think is what's creating this cognitive dissonance in our culture. But I digress. Let's continue. I'll give this video one more minute and then I'll move on to the next segment.
And in fact, that's used as the biggest reason why we need more money. But in point of fact, the money spent on education was rising by leaps and bounds throughout the entire period during which the test scores were going down. Somewhere in the early 80s, there was a leveling off and a few little rises, but we have never come close to where we were in 1963.
Talk about the social phenomenon you call affective education and how it plays into this whole question of just how good schools are.
A great deal of time and energy are spent on things which are non-academic subjects, which are essentially psychological kinds of subjects, exercises. And this is known as affective education, as if you can somehow educate people's feelings rather than to educate their intellect.
Exactly. Educating someone's feelings instead of their intellect. What way are they educating people's feelings? Hey, every white person is an inherent racist. You're teaching someone how to feel about another certain group of people instead of understanding and knowledge. Hey, racism is wrong and it should be condemned in all circumstances. You shouldn't be able to judge someone based on the color of their skin, because the color of their skin is superficial. They didn't choose to be white. They didn't choose to be black. You don't understand anything about them. But if someone says they're a Christian, if someone said they're an atheist, if someone say that they're agnostic, you know more about them based on what they told you their beliefs and understanding of the world is than compared to their skin color. I'm a black man. What that's supposed to mean? I don't know. That don't tell me anything about you. But if you say you're an atheist, oh yeah, I know something about you. A lot more than if you just told me you're a black man. I don't know what kind of black man you are. Are you an American, Mexican, African? I don't know any can you are. Like. This is why a lot of this race pride stuff, I take it as superficial stuff. But I digress. You already seen signs of it, so I'll let it play out some more.
And the problem is that most public school teachers have no such qualifications, if anyone has such qualifications. But certainly they are not psychiatrists or psychologists. They have no idea of the emotional turmoil they may be stirring up in the students, and there's some evidence that that's happening in terms of medical reactions of vomiting, signs of nerves in various ways. But more,
and that should be the number one comeback for parents too. When these teachers saying, "Oh, or your kids are changing gender," well, you have no qualifications, teacher, from hiding that fact from me. You're not the one who you don't pay for my kids. You're not responsible for my child's medical bills. You're not responsible for taking care of my kid. So why are you hiding the fact that they're dealing with gender dysphoria? You have no qualifications as a teacher to dictate whether it's appropriate for me to know or not. And this is the problem in the education system. And it seemed like this has been warned by a lot of conservatives in the past, in the Reagan era, how they talked about how communists was attempting to take over the education system. And the first plan of business is to separate the parent from the children. Communists believe it's the state's responsibility to educate your children, not you. That the kids should be more aligned with the values of the establishment than with you, the individual parent. And you see cycles of it in the school system. How they feel like, oh no, I can protect your kids. Oh no, we're gonna hide your kid. You don't tell your mommy and daddy. And this is why they get called groomers. And then they go F around and found out in Virginia, and the parents voted out the Democrats, because the Democrats dare open their mouth and say, oh, I believe parents should have no say in our kids' education. Are you crazy? We take care of them. We feed them. We keep them alive so you can indoctrinate them. And you saying that we have no right to dictate what they get to learn? Are you crazy? And this was in the 1990s.
More than that, what they tend to do is to try to alienate the child from the parent. And I think that's the most dangerous thing they do.
How did they do that?
Well, if you read the literature, it's just astonishing how parents are depicted in the literature as people who are hung up, who have old-fashioned ideas. One of the areas which they do is sex education, but it's not sex education as such, because there are a whole series of kinds of education of the emotions, as they would put it, which do the same thing. And the idea is that the child is supposed to make his own decisions, and he's supposed to pick his own values on which to make those decisions. So the whole history of the human race is sort of thrown out the window.
Exactly.
And Johnny is supposed to start and draw upon his entire 8 or 9 years of experience in the world to decide what his values ought to be.
It was in.
And so instead of respecting the parents and respecting your years of experience, what you can impart onto your child, the teacher's telling him, no. All that is old-fashioned thinking. It's a new world, like as if human nature changed, as if we evolve into new beings. And this is where you get this dumb idea where men can be women. This is where transgenderism associated and generated from. This idea that you, from your own experience, you think you can dictate and assemble your own values based on your limited amount of life in this world. This is why the left thinks a 6-year-old can decide their gender. And then they'll go out of their way to defend this idea. This is craziness. We're literally creating mental health issues in our children. And we're allowing unqualified professionals, teachers, dictate, oh, I want to protect your kids. Oh, I'm teaching your kids. Oh, teaching your kids LGBTQ content is not going to mentally affect them. Having sexually explicit books that covers LGBTQ, homosexual sex, sexual acts is not going to affect them in a negative way. We're just trying to educate them on the realities of the world. How you know that? You're not a qualified professional, teachers. Hey, man. That's all I had to say on that segment. So I got some news for you guys. So apparently the DA, Fani Willis, must fire either her lead prosecutor or step down from the Trump RICO case. This was breaking news all day in the morning today, and I'm going to get a little bit into it. I won't spend too much time on it. I think I'm going to give this segment 2 minutes. Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee, sorry guys, ruled on Friday that either District Attorney Fani Willis or Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade, her former romantic partner, must step down from the election interference case against former President Donald Trump to avoid appearance of impropriety. Now, this is another thing about cognitive dissonance too. Is like there is a conflict of interest. There is an impropriety here, but this, I guess, some people, and I think I agree with this take, that he took the coward way out. Instead of taking them both off the case to eliminate bias completely, he was like, no, we're going to take one of you guys out so that way it doesn't appear impartial. Okay. While McAfee did not find specific evidence of conflict of interest to remove Willis entirely, he also chastised the district attorney for her racially charged rhetoric and playing the race card against her critics. The judge ruling came in response to a motion filed by former Trump staffer Mike Roman, who was charged alongside the president and even more than a dozen associates in a sweeping racketeering case for their challenge to the 2020 election in Georgia. Roman petitioned the court to dismiss the 41-count indictment, accusing Willis of maintaining a romantic relationship with Wade, who since 2022 has been paid $653,000 to prosecute the case. In the subsequent hearing on the allegations, witness affirmed that the relationship began before Wade was named the lead prosecutor, which Willis maintained that it only began after. Lie. Right? Appearance of impropriety. End of the day, if there's a possibility of a conflict of interest, wouldn't you want to eliminate the speculation completely, Judge? The established record now highlights a significant appearance of impropriety that infects the current structure of the prosecuting team, an appearance that must be removed. The ruling continued. As the case moved forward, reasonable members of the public could easily be left to wonder whether the financial exchanges have continued, resulting in some form of benefit to the district attorney, or even whether the romantic relationship has resumed. As long as Wade remains on the case, this unnecessary perception will persist. I say remove both of them. But I think he took the cowardly way out, honestly, the judge. and I kind of Charlie Kirk, who's been following this very closely, even left-wing media knew that Fani Willis deserves to be removed from this case. George McAfee instead chose to be a coward and protect a woman he donated in the past. So here's another conflict of interest too. This is why I'm saying he should have removed both of them. He shouldn't even give her the choice or them the choice. It's time for Georgia to use SB 332, which Governor Kemp signed to law just this week, and remove the rogue prosecutor in Fulton. So we're going to listen a little bit into some of the reactions from the left and just get a better understanding what the hell's going on.
It's so legalistic centric and yet so important and fascinating.
Right. Don't let the legalese fool you. This is epic. This is monumental. If things are going in the direction we think, Fani Willis lied to the court, it's game over for her. She will be disqualified. If they had a relationship prior to when they represented to the court, it's a huge deal. I can't overstate it.
And do you?
It's so.
Yeah, so the judge split the baby, right? If you guys are just tuning in, he split the baby, and he's like, one of you guys got to step down. Look at his face. One of you guys got to step down. Who's going to be? Who's it going to be? Unbelievable. Yeah, I think this whole case, either it should have been, like, all the charges should have been dropped, or they both get removed from the case and start a new case with someone else, right? The jury could have been contaminated as well with all this conflict of interest, but they don't care. They just like, we just gonna continue on. So I'm done reacting to Fani Willis. You guys are probably already aware what the hell was going on. So in this next segment, I want to talk about something more on the cultural issue, because there's been something going on with Valuetainment. So recently, Valuetainment got heat for hiring Chris Cuomo, and a lot of people don't like this move. Valuetainment is excited to announce that the veteran news anchor Chris Cuomo will be joining our media team as a talent partner. He'll be becoming a rotating guest on the PBD podcast home team, bringing 2 decades of experience and his unique perspective to the table. His new role is a non-cable media contract. Cuomo will still be hosting his show on News Nation, which was launched in July 2022, as well as his own personal podcast, the Chris Cuomo Project. This follows our live events with Cuomo and political commentary Candace Owens this Friday, as well as the 2 successful appearances on the podcast in July 2023 and November 2023. Cuomo is the best known for his role as the CNN Cuomo Primetime, a hallmark of cable nightly news during the Trump administration. Before getting his own show on CNN, he was a co-anchor on the network news New Day. So that's a little quick summary of what the hell's going on. So Patrick reacted to, Tim Pool called this move how is someone supposed to learn consequences if you keep rewarding their negative behavior or their bad behavior. A lot of people in Pat's community has said that they will no longer be supporting Pat, even unsubscribing from Pat PBD podcast because of the move of hiring Chris Cuomo. A lot of people say that it's because Chris Cuomo is a dishonest actor. He doesn't really believe in anything. He's an opportunist, right? He'll say what needs to be said so he can get the outcome that he wants. Essentially, they're trying to, you could make that argument that they're equating Chris Cuomo to Don Lemon. Don Lemon said what he needed to say. Hey, I want to be free speech. I want to take a different angle on things. I'm unleashed from the CNN cable news. Did his first interview with Elon Musk, and it was the same old ish. So people seeing that, now seeing Chris Cuomo getting partnered with PBD, who many on the people are saying, hey, you're saying you're fighting against the establishment. How can you bring someone from the establishment into your crew? And Pat responded, and I think this has been Pat's whole philosophy from the get-go, is that he wants PBD, the PBD podcast, to be a place where people can have conversations, sit down from all political sides, have different various views articulated on the show so that everyone can figure out for themselves who they agree with. And I think regardless if you like the move or not, me personally, I have no feelings against the move. It's still fairly new. I still I'm a wait and see kind of guy. I'll wait and see how Pat utilizes Chris Cuomo, because the advantage here's why I'm not so mad about Pat having Chris Cuomo. Chris Cuomo can no longer hide from people, right? You know how when he worked at CNN, it was rare for him to run into a real hard type Trump supporter. You felt like there was a lot of filtering going on. And Pat can literally do the same thing he did here. He had Candace Owens on the other side. Everyone loved that episode because Candace was just giving Chris Cuomo the work. Pat controls that now. When Chris Cuomo's coming over today, who are we gonna put against Chris Cuomo today? Oh, hey, it'll be interesting if we can get Ben Shapiro on to debate Chris Cuomo on some certain issues. Chris Cuomo no longer has control over like who he gets to see or not. Now, there's still added that he's a contractor. He could be like, I'm not coming today. You bring who? You bring Ben Shapiro? Oh no, I'm good. I'm not going over there. So there's still cases of that can be happening, but I legitimately think that Chris Cuomo has a certain following, or maybe don't have a certain following, because I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Chris Cuomo has a following because of News Nation or because he's actually that good, right? But he's a big name. Right, this is gonna bring a lot of awareness to PBD's podcast. It's gonna attract a lot more people who are more, I guess, moderate to left leaning, who listens to Chris Cuomo, who likes Chris Cuomo. So I think this is Pat's way of bringing in a different type of audience to his show, and tying his name with Chris Cuomo is a step to doing that. And one thing I'm not scared, but worried about on the right, because I was looking at comment sections on his response to Tim Pool, and Tim Pool saying that, no second chances. These people are bad actors. They wouldn't have done this to you if you were in the other foot. They cancel us. I feel like there's a lot of revenge going on from Tim Pool's commentary. Like he said, I want to hire him. He's dishonest. He's a liar. He's a smearer. He misframes people, and all that's true. I agree with you. All that's true. But I think that if you remove the personal thing from it, and I think Pat's looking beyond Chris Cuomo. He's looking like, okay, what kind of audience will Chris Cuomo bring? These are people that we need to convince. These are people that need to hear a different side of things, because like I told you guys on this channel, on this channel, leftists tend to block people of alternative viewpoints. If bringing Chris Cuomo exposes them to a different amount of information, because the left, one thing they're good at cutting off outside influences towards their audience, right? They only bring people that agrees with them. They shelter their people from different perspectives. Bring Chris Cuomo in will expose them kind of to our ideas, and it gives us an opportunity to try to persuade people who are more on the middle and more on the center left and more on the left that are attracted to Chris Cuomo. Because a lot of the times, Chris Cuomo and how I see myself as well, we're just a representative of a group of a conglomerate of people. There's people out there that believe the same things that Chris Cuomo believes. And seeing how Chris Cuomo either gets destroyed, see how shaky his thinking is compared to other people are going to be like, oh, well, Chris Cuomo didn't really defend that point pretty well. Maybe Chris Cuomo doesn't have the right angle on this. Maybe I should go look for my own angle, right? Because you want to expose people to different ideas. And I think that's what Pat was trying to do. I think Pat is trying to get expand his audience to not just be people on the right and people on the center right, but he's also trying to get some notoriety and possibly try to convert people on the left. I think that's the move with Chris Cuomo. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it. But I think I want to wait and see how this plays out before I make my judgment on the move that Pat has done. So, since we're talking about Chris Cuomo, I want to do a little snippet of his debate, or no, not his debate, his discussion with Tucker Carlson about feminism, and in some ways try to, I guess, see where Pat is going with this, because this was a day removed after the announcement, so this will give us a fresh perspective of maybe what Pat is trying to go for, and also how Chris Cuomo communicates, and see if is there anything special worth like hiring this guy as a talent partner. But I digress. Let's get into the video.
I don't make a gender distinction.
Really?
I know too many women who can kick my ass.
You
know what I mean? Like
I don't think you know
many...
That's not true.
I do.
Name one who could kick your ass. So I'm 6'1", or
you?
was before I had back surgery.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
We're trying to be real with each other here. You know what I mean?
Well, you're a lot taller than I am. Okay, so I'm just saying. And you're famously a bodybuilder. There's not one woman in America who can kick your ass. It's just not true, and you know it's not true. And you have to say it
you
to like
went
make
to the
unhappy,
UFC fight.
unmarried.
So this is a criticism that Tim Pool launches at Chris Cuomo, is that I want to say he's a BS artist, but he's dishonest, right? Because realistically, Chris Cuomo looks pretty tall. I seen him, I was like, damn, this dude's big. I think he's like 6'4", maybe 6'5". What woman can beat up a 6'5" like Tucker Carlson said, bodybuilding man. There's not a lot of women out there. Maybe there's some, but there's not a lot of women out there. All right, and this is a very dishonest take in my view, because I don't think he believes that. I think it's almost like he's kissing up, or he's virtue signaling, right? So that's what I'm trying to say. This is some of the commentary that Tim Pool points out. Say, hey, this is a problem. You're rewarding bad behavior, you're rewarding bad actors, and you're only going to destroy your brand going forward. So there's a lot of flack that Patrick Bet-David is getting, but I don't know. I'm on the camp of wait and see how what's Pat's move with this. Right now, Pat's taking a lot of heat for it. A lot of people are not going to no longer support his podcast because of it, but I think all that is going to go away, and I think in the long term, we'll have a better ability to judge Pat's hiring decisions. So, next part, as we go through the cognitive dissonance, I want to highlight the race issue, right? So race has been coming like a big theme in our public discussion, right? College campuses, as you saw in the beginning of this stream, Thomas Sowell pointed out how teachers are spending time, valuable student time, on things that is not catered to them gaining more knowledge, more understanding, and it's been working on feelings. They're teaching kids how they should feel about some certain topics. When someone mentioned how women are not equal to men, you should feel bad about saying that. You should be bad. It should be bad for you to even attempt to research and validate that claim, right? Because it goes based on how someone feels. Oh, we shouldn't be saying that because that's hate speech. It hurts people's feelings if you tell them that there's no way a woman can beat a 6'5", grown, previously a bodybuilder man. Sorry, Chris Cuomo. There's no way in hell that's happening. And this is cognitive dissonance, like I said again, right? You can't tell people the truth because it might hurt their feelings. College first students athletes to watch videos saying all white people are racist. Anti-whiteism. A college in North Carolina recently required student athletes to watch a video that claimed all white people are racist. Isn't this racist? Saying all race people are racist and that the people of color cannot be racist is racist. If someone said, I can't be, Kenny, you can't be a YouTuber because you're a black man. What if I said that person's racist? You all agree. If I say you can't be racist because of your skin color, isn't that also racism? Yes, it is. Because I go on absolutes. Equality for the good and equality for the bad. You can't only want equality when it benefits you. You also must accept equality when it doesn't benefit you. And this is the problem we have in our culture. And this is another thing that leading to our cognitive dissonance is that for every right you have, there's a responsibility for that right. At one point in the film, a clip was posted on X by writer Steve Garg, an Asian student, suggesting that it's not just white people who are racist against minorities, but that minorities can be racist against white people. The faculty then tell her that that such acts are bigoted and not racist. I thought bigotry was racism. You see these people? We would only say that it's only white people that can be racist that are racist. We would also say that it's only white people that can be racist that are racist, and that people of color cannot be. The faculty goes on to say the faculty member is being racist now. The students in discussion showed little reaction, and another faculty jumped in to drive the point home. Let me tell you what he's not going to say on the second part. The second part, the facilitator said, he's not going to say that people of color can't be bigots, can't express racial prejudice, can't try to engage in acts of discrimination against white people, and can't be real stupid things filled with hate. We're saying that collectively, blacks, Latinos, and other groups do not have the power to collectively oppress white people through the use of our system. What about the use of violence? What if white people are disproportionately affected by interracial crime? Isn't that a way of isn't that a threat to white people? That between the two interactions, black criminals disproportionately attack and victimize white victims compared to white victims victimizing black people. Isn't that a problem? Is this where you're wasting time teaching student athletes? And they wonder why our kids can't do basic math. There's clips out there where college students, people are asking college students, hey, what's 2 plus, not 2 plus 2, but what is 12 times 12? And the person's like, they're struggling to comprehend because they never were taught how to do math. They were never taught how to think and problem solve, because math teaches problem solving skills, critical thinking skills, right? We're not instilling that in our schools anymore. All we teaching our kids how to do is regurgitate and memorize information. And this is why, based on what Thomas Sowell pointed out earlier in this stream, how he said, oh, all these kids have great GPAs, high grade marks, good homework, good grades. They have good grades, the best grades ever. Oh, they're doing well in school. But for some reason, they're not going to economics the same rate. They're not going to STEM and sciences the same way, right? There's some PhDs that still doesn't have a single black graduate yet. Women are going to college at a disproportionate rate compared to men. For every 100 men, there's 142 women going to college. Men are understanding this. I think this is why a lot of men are not going to college. I don't think it's also because of the fact that college is so hostile to men. It's also because men are looking at the return on investment and going, nah, this degree ain't worth it. I'd rather go to trade school. I'd rather find an alternative to get my outcome without going to college. This is why I say college don't make you smarter. College is not the keys to success. I think college is merely a credential that they're using to gatekeep people from getting a job without them. So you got to go through the indoctrination camp. You got to go into the indoctrination church of the liberals, because if you look at the statistics, for every one conservative teacher, you get 12 liberal professors. So that means essentially I can make the argument that college in 2024 is an ideological church for the left. This is why a lot of college educated people vote Democrat overwhelmingly, because they're taught to. They've been conditioned to. That's all they've been exposed to. That's all they know. So when they get exposed to other viewpoints and thoughts, they say, oh, that's bigoted. They already been conditioned how they should feel about you. Oh, I feel like that's racist. Oh, how is it racist? How is it racist to fire Juwan Howard after having an 8-24 season? I'm supposed to give Juwan Howard another chance because he happens to be a black coach? This is the argument I'm putting here, because this is another cognitive dissonance. First, you want to be like, black people are just as capable as other people than any other group of people in this world. People will agree with me. But the moment I hold a black person accountable at the same way I will hold a white coach accountable, because if a white coach was getting an 8-24 season, he's getting fired just like Juwan Howard's getting fired. But all of a sudden, there's a hoopla saying that, oh my God, if he was a white coach, he would have been given more chances, more opportunities. Juwan Howard limped to an 8-24 season. They dropped 9 straight decisions on Wednesday. Oh my God, bro. In addition to Michigan's struggle on the court, Howard reportedly was involved in confrontation with then strength and conditioning coach John Sanderson during a practice, prompting a review from the university. The incident came during... What's going on with my internet? Am I back? That was weird. The hell? What's going on? Am I good now? I think I'm good now. Okay. That was weird. I start talking about racism, and all of a sudden I'm glitching. Okay, prompting a review from the university. The incident came during a time when Howard was working his way back to serving as head coach after undergoing a heart procedure in mid-September. After a comprehensive review of the program, I have decided that Juwan will not return on the men's basketball coach. Athletic director Ward Manuel said in a statement on Friday. So, hey, he didn't do so good, right? But there's wokies, these woke reporters. Oh my God, Juwan Howard, we wish you luck. Oh, it was so unfair. Man, you just fired a black coach. There's not a lot of black coaches out there. You shouldn't have fired them. What, you want special treatment now? And it seemed like what a lot of black people are not like pushing for. They're not pushing for like equality. That they're not pushing to get treated the same. It seemed like they're pushing to be given special treatment because of their skin color, right? To cure past discrimination is present discrimination. It seemed like grievances. It looked like black people and a lot of people are using racism as an avenue to blame someone for something. I can't be racist. I'm a black man. I see color, says the New York Patriots head coach. When are we going to stop seeing color? Because seeing color is causing division. Seeing color is causing conflict. Seeing color is causing a lot of cognitive dissonance in our public discourse. Oh, you're not allowed to speak about black history. I'm an American, ain't I? Yes. Okay. I'm talking about American history, right? If Black history is American history, shouldn't that mean every American should be allowed to speak on their perception of Black history? Yes, it is. Because if Black history is not American history, then why were we teaching it in government schools? So you're allowed to teach Black history to non-Black students. But if a non-Black student has a critique over your interpretation of events, you're going to call them racist. Must be nice. Bro, so here's a clip. Joe Rogan, I don't think I'd be able to play it that long because I already got a warning from the stream that I was using copyrighted stuff. So they gave me a warning. So I'm going to only watch this just a little bit just to get some context, just get the ball rolling, and then we'll move on to the next topic. Let's take a look.
Those are insane that they're using the Hitler one as an example, because it's really like showing that like Hitler was crazy.
Right.
Like, you can't be this is my thing. We'll have only one race, so no one can be racist. Like, that's ridiculous.
I mean, that's one of the things that the SPLC accuses me of, though, is that I promoted the white genocide theory, which that is not true. But what are you going to do about these things?
Well, there's plenty of people that have said crazy things about white people lately that you're allowed to say. That just drives me nuts.
That if the logic of CRT was played out to its conclusion, that it would end in a genocide of whites, which is a completely different thing. That word "if" means a lot.
If it was taken to its fullest extent, I think there's also a problem with,
because there's this idea in CRT that you have to be less white. What does that mean? What if someone told you be less Black? What does that mean? Right? Because people will say, you talk like a white person. I'm like, so speaking standard English, knowing how to read, knowing how to do math, doing well in school, not getting yourself in trouble, those are considered white? I said, it's crazy that in this culture, this is another cognitive dissonance, that we mix race with culture. Just because me and you are the same race doesn't mean we come from the same culture. There's a lot of this. There's different. Black people always like to talk about diasporas, right? There's Africans, Jamaicans, Haitians. There's different cultures, but for some reason, Blackness encapsulate all those cultures, even though these cultures portray themselves very differently. A lot of African Black men don't operate or walk the same as African American Black men. But you hear a Black man that's able to articulate himself, speak proper English, don't have the same interests as you do. I don't like barbecue chicken. Oh my God. A Black man that don't like barbecue chicken? What? All these false assumptions and stereotypes, like Blackness. When people say Blackness, you're not speaking in a Black voice. It's merely you're not living up to a stereotype. You're not living up to the imagery that we portray Black people to be. Isn't that kind of racist in a way? That my Blackness is defined by my actions, when being Black is just who you are. Just like a man, I'm just a man. You can be an effeminate man, you can be a masculine man, but you're still a man. And this is the problem with this whole transgender stuff too, that they equate actions with identity. You act like a female, you act like a stereotypical female, therefore you're secretly a woman, says a teacher trying to indoctrinate you in gender theory. And this is the problem we have in our culture. Cognitive dissonance. Big problems, right? And now we're normalizing racism against white people. Actually, there's some stats out there that show that Black people are more likely to be racist than other groups of people. Don't bring no white girl to my house. If a white man said, don't bring no Black boy to my house, how the internet will react. Cognitive dissonance. We don't have any consistency anymore. We don't have any ideals anymore. We don't have anything that unifies us as a culture anymore. When we say racism is bad, people say, well, there's exceptions. Certain racism is acceptable. Certain racism is good, like being racist against white people. Saying that white people are inherently racist. Saying that white people are devils. But if you demonize Black people in the same vitriol that Black people portrays on them, it will be a problem. So you're allowed to hit. You're allowed to make accusations. You're allowed to do all this stuff, but the other person's not allowed to do it. That's not a right. That sounds like a privilege. That don't sound like equality. It sounds like special treatment. And I think this has been the reality, that people are using equality, equity as a smokescreen to cover up their real motive. A lot of people's real motive is equal outcome. Black wealth is falling behind white wealth. My argument is Black people doing the same thing to get the same decisions, do the same actions to get the wealth at the same level that white people are doing? No. Then they pretend, oh no, we fell behind because of generational wealth. When if you look at stats, most generational wealth only lasts 3 generations. So after 3 generations, majority of people who got generational wealth lost it. So that means they start right back at 0. My biggest problem with all this race narrative is that a lot of groups of people are not focusing on their actions, their own behaviors, and making do with what they have. Life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. Because end of the day, you can only control what you can control. And instead of focusing on energy on what they can control, they want to focus energy on making people feel guilty because of their skin color. I forgot who said it. I think it was Shelby Steele. I'm quoting him. White power. Sorry, not white power. Black power relies on white guilt. White guilt is black power. That means black power is dependent on the feelings of a white man. That's why black liberals get so mad at black conservatives, because black conservatives don't care. Hey, I don't care who agrees with me or not. I don't care about your skin color. If you see that I'm right, hey, I agree with you. If you're right on the situation, I agree with you. I'm not going to look, oh, I see color. A bunch of white people agree with this statement. I'm going to be contrary to this statement because a bunch of white people agree with it. If white people said that black people are good athletes and a bunch of black people said, no, that's racist, so if I agree with the white people and I say, hey, black people are good athletes, I mean, how does 13% of a population make up 78% of the NBA players in basketball? Doesn't that kind of validate, black people, they produce a lot of good athletes. But nah, the group of black people will say I'm a coon because I agree with the white people. Make it make sense. Cognitive dissonance. And it's been bred in our culture because since the 1960s, since we allowed the left to essentially take control of these institutions, they've been pushing about this idea about, oh, we value your feelings instead of valuing facts. We think we can teach you how to feel about things instead of teaching you knowledge, information. That's what schools should be focusing on, providing information, not trying to condition you into a narrative, not trying to get you to believe something. If I want to go believe something, I'll go to a church. And this is my problem. And this is one of the biggest talking points that I have, is that education in the long term is something that socialists focus heavily at. And I think conservatives need to start pushing back and taking back some of the institutions back. And I think the biggest institution we should focus on is education. This is why I want the Department of Education out of there. Because essentially they're instrumenting their way of conditioning the future of the country to be socialist, to be liberal, to be communist. This is why you got all these young people saying that capitalism is evil. This is why you see stats saying that socialism is just as popular as capitalism, is because people in our government schools are getting conditioned by left-wing ideology. And then we wonder why our test scores are going lower compared to people in the globe, because instead we're teaching how to normalize racism against white people instead of having our kids understand how the world operates. Kids can tell you all the woke. They can tell you anti-racism, CRT, social emotional learning. But then if you ask them some fact about what happened in World War II or some histrionics about their own country, they don't know much about it because they didn't spend a lot of time on that. But they spent a whole lot of time understanding LGBTQ. They know all the trendy stuff. And then when they're done learning whatever the government schools want them to learn, because 76% of our kids are educated in government schools, aka public schools, they go to TikTok to get more filth being algorithmically pushed on them, getting bad advice online from other kids the same age as them. The blind leading the blind. That's what TikTok is. I know there's not a lot of people down here right now, but what you're doing is important and you are valued and loved. Keep up the great work. I appreciate that. Yo, I don't know why y'all pick these weird these usernames, bro. Y'all be trying to get me up, but I appreciate the comment, man. I really do. So I want to give this video 40 more minutes, and then we'll get into a debate between Destiny and Bernie and Ben. I have a chalkboard here, so I'm making sure I'm touching all my points. But let's give it 30 more minutes.
And when you tell people that a group of people are responsible for things, or a group of people, like just completely composed of individuals with completely different lives, right, and everyone's got different experiences, and when you say that that group of people is either bad or that group of people was responsible for everything, like as soon as you do that, you allow othering.
That's right.
Yes, and that's what I like the Wikipedia thing here. And that's what DEI essentially does. It othered white people. I thought othering people based on their skin color was wrong. Oh, not to the left. To the left, diversity means non-white. If you had a room full of Asian people, oh, look how diverse this panel is. If you have a room full of black people, look how diverse this panel is. Room full of Hispanic people, look how diverse this panel is. Room full of white people, oh my God, do we need more diversity? That's cognitive dissonance, because diversity means, hey, you want a variety of people represented in a setting, correct? Yes. Well, this country is not just black people, so why do you don't have Asians, Hispanics, and white people on that panel? That's really diverse. Cognitive dissonance infecting our culture. And I agree with you, Jonathan Fields. It's because of the fact that people don't have values anymore. They don't have strong morals, right? The Bible, regardless if you're religious or not, it provided a set of principles that instilled strong values in a population. I believe it was John Adams. I might be misquoting him. If you're watching it on the on the replay, if you're watching this on the live chat, let me know if I got this wrong. But I think it was John Adams that said that this country can only stand with a moral and religious people. So a moral and religious people will not allow people to get discriminated against, to be othered merely because of their skin color. Oh, we're allowed to do this to white people. We're allowed to talk this way about white people. Would a moral person take that? No, a moral person say, no, that's wrong. Unequivocally, that's wrong. Because if we do unto thy neighbor as you want them to do unto you, that's wisdom. Because at the end of the day, look, the reason why I think, because I was raised Christian growing up, and the biggest idea they put in your head is to treat others how you want to be treated. So if black people, you out here saying, oh, I don't want you to bring back no white girl in my house. If a white person said the exact same thing about you, don't bring no black girl into my house, and you felt offended, you felt, oh, that's racism. You and the white person are both human. Y'all the same. This is equality. This is true equality. Because I call it down the middle. I'm a Frederick Douglass type of Republican. I side with who's right, and I side against who's wrong. Period. I don't care if the people who's wrong are all black people, and I'm the only black person siding with a bunch of white people. What's wrong is wrong. What's right is right. That's what strong morals and principles guide you as. But if you want to do what's convenient for you, if you want to do what gets you power and special treatment, you say what people want to hear. Black people want to hear that they can't be racist because of their skin color. Black people want to hear that they're victimized and oppressed and they have it harder than everybody else, because what black people seem to be looking for in public discussion is confirmation of their own biases. And this is why I said that black conservatives are people kind of who reject the victimhood narrative. I'm not by default a victim because of my skin color, which is a racist idea, by the way. I don't have it harder than other people because of my skin color, which is a racist idea, by the way. Black people have this like racial, almost black supremacist type movement. Oh, everything is more exaggerated for them. And this is a big problem in our culture. But I think I ranted enough on the race issue. Don't get me going. I can get going for a long time, right? So I have some stats here that liberal teenagers report worse depression, and cognitive dissonance is a mental issue. And liberals are more prone to mental issues. They have worse mental health than conservative teenagers, right? That can explain a lot of things that's going on with our women. Gen Z women overwhelmingly will be liberal. This is their future if they don't change up, right? A lot of Gen Z women are becoming trans, bisexual, all this stuff. Look, this is the transgender cult is the biggest cognitive dissonance in our cultural war right now. The transgender cult is now sacrificing the health of kids at its religious altar. Enough is enough. I thought we wanted separation of church and state, liberals, right? And this is the hypocrisy that I'm talking about. This is another cognitive dissonance. Because liberals day and night will say, oh, Kenny, conservatives are not allowed to put their Bibles in these schools. So you're saying that we're not allowed to push our values in government, in federal jurisdictions. Okay, why are you allowing to push an ideology that if you judge it with the same standards you judge other religions, it'll be considered a religion? You can't prove, like, believing that you are a man even though you're a woman, believing you're a woman even though you were born a man, isn't that a belief system? And if you want to consider religion a belief system, then why are you allowed to push your belief systems in schools? Why are you allowed to teach? You're allowed to sell books reaffirming that belief, but God forbid a teacher start teaching stuff based on the Bible. You crying. Either we all do it or no one can do it. That's how the government should actually be ran. This is how the federal system should actually be ran. Because like I said, the government is a referee. If a referee made 2 different calls for the same action, you'll be mad. If I get fouled, right? For all my basketball fans, you going up for a layup and dude just sack the hell out of your arm. You said foul. He don't call it because you're a black man. He said, oh, you could take it. But it's a foul. They've been oppressed. You dominate all of history. Let them have it. No, you wouldn't take any BS from the ref. You say, hey, that's racist. Why you not calling the call? He did an infraction. I'm supposed to get my free throws. This is what we're doing with this trans cult here. We're not applying the rules equally here. Leftists always want special treatment about stuff, and then they get mad when Republicans play the same game. 32 out of 50 states have full-on bans, partial bans, or bans being considered in regarding to transing children. I know it doesn't always feel like it, but we are winning the spiritual war against massive evil. I agree. They say evil men win when good men do nothing. I think it's time, like 2024, bro. I'm on this bandwagon where 2024 is not the year of cowardness. It's the year of courage, man. People are going to have courage to speak up. People are going to have courage to stand out in a way, because it's what's needed. It's honestly what's needed. We need more people speaking about it, more people willing to debate, defend their ideas, stand up for what they believe in. And I think this is something Christians need to understand and hear as well, is that you guys, I want to say y'all have been too tolerant, but it's time to be less tolerant in 2024. Less tolerant of sin, less tolerant of evil, right? Now, I ain't going Christian nationalist on you, but don't be scared to stand up for your belief in. Like, be unapologetically Christian. Hey, yes, our Bible says this because we believe it's wrong, right? I think Michael Knowles is the perfect example of how you stand up for your faith and your belief. I know he's Catholic, but I think Christians can take a page out of his book, because essentially that's how the left wins. They win with societal pressure, right? They pressure you. They take over these institutions to pressure you. Oh, you don't want to lose your job. You better not speak out, right? What is a man if he's not willing to stand up for his principles? What is a man that if he don't stand for anything, he falls for? If he don't stand for anything, he falls for everything, right? This is what's going on with the secular left. This is the problem with Destiny, right? Destiny's out here. He's preaching a message. Oh, I mean, I don't condone degeneracy. I just won't judge it. Well, if you don't judge it by default, you're enabling it. You're allowing it. Right? And it's crazy. It's crazy how cultures get destroyed. And this is why people want to ban TikTok. Because essentially it's psychological warfare, right? I'm going to play this whole video for you guys right now, because I believe this is something that we really need to take seriously. Because if we don't take seriously, we can't fight back. This is why I get mad about liberals too, and many people on the left, centrists, and even libertarians. It's because when conservatives start talking about cultural issues, oh, you religious zealots. Why can't everyone just live the way they want? Well, we tried that way already, and we see what happened. It's chaos. There needs to be some type of cultural norms, and that's what conservatives have been arguing for. There needs to be structure, right? Liberals like anarchy, but anarchy is what? Chaos. Not in general, an anarcho society is not highly probable, because if all men were angels, we wouldn't need government. That's the only way libertarianism works in its absolute form, in its idealist form. So some form of government is needed. Now, I believe the government should be very restricted, very limited, very specific in its domains and avenues of authority. I can agree to that. But this idea that you can be live, let live, and the culture won't decay, no. Right? How you parent, this is what I do with my son. I don't let my kid do whatever he wants. I'm not live, let live. Oh, that's just how he is. No, I put structure. I put boundaries. I put a cause and effect. I put standards on my kid. Hey, this is how you portray yourself. This is how you portray yourself. Right? As of my last name, this is how you show yourself. This is what we expect from you. And we're going to support you and help you to get there. Right? And this is where the nationalism come out in me. The patriotism come out in me. Because as Americans, we have to have some type of standards for our people. Look at the 60s, 1960s. After the 1960s, America started going downhill straight from there. all groups of people, right? If you see a high school kid in 1960, he's fit as hell. You think he was a grown man. You're like, damn, these kids, they're buff, they're fit. Obesity was at a lower rate compared to now. How we have more knowledge, more understanding about science, health, nutrition, yet we're more out of shape than people in the 1960s. Aren't we supposed to be better, not worse? But this is due to our cultural decay. And apps like TikTok that's destroying our social fabric, destroying our unity as a culture is not beneficial. And I think that there's only two ways. Either you fight against it, aka speak out, put your voice out there, be unapologetically you, or else be passive and just let them continue psyoping our entire nation into self-destruction. And we've been warned. Socialists warned us. Socialists warned us. I think it was this guy actually. He warned us. He was like, yo, you don't have to accept socialism because your kids, your grand will just give you droplets of it. And by your kids' generation, by your by your grandkids' generation, socialism will be already on its way to completion. You won't realize you live in a socialist country. And that seems to be the plan of the left. Now you got democratic socialists. Right? And I just explained, right now, polls show that socialism is just as popular as capitalism. Everything's going right on plan, and it's time to push back culturally. But I digress.
Ideological subversion is the slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing.
So this is why I say that I think cognitive dissonance is affecting the culture war, because when you see stats, like the left like to bring out these stats, a lot of these stats, it's like almost like they playing with the numbers, right? Let's associate this, let's line items. Let's say, hey, you spent money on 3 items, and really you went on one trip, but they count every item as a separate trip. Oh, Kenny spent money in 3 different locations. And I'm like, no, I bought all these 3 locations in one day. Oh, well, no, we decided to separate them out per item. Per day equals per item. I'm like, no, that don't make any sense. I didn't pay 3 separate times. I paid 1 time, right? That's one way they try to play with the numbers to purport a certain narrative. And this caused cognitive dissonance because people start saying, I don't trust science, right? As a conservative, I'm skeptical of your methods, your methodology. When someone gives me a stat, I go, oh, what was the methodology? Like, how did they count that? If I say a stat like, oh, you tell me, the justice system is racist because look at the black man that's overrepresented in jail. How does 13% of the population make up 52% of inmates in jail? And I go, okay, how you arrive to that conclusion? How did the data get its weight? Like, show your work. That's what math teach you. This is why I'm saying math skills is important, because math skills it practice problem solving and critical thinking skills. Because when you come to an answer, x plus y equals 4, you know the formula, and you're like, oh, I know how that got to that conclusion. X equals 2 and y equals 2 equals 4. That's how it equals 4. That's statistics. You work backwards. Okay, let's reverse engineering. How did it get to this result? Oh, you just counted all the inmates in jail, and then you filtered by race, and you saw that compared to the population and the amount of people in jail, you saw that it was disproportionately black. Now, I come in, I add my context, and I counter, and I say, hey, also, even though black people make 13% of the population, black people disproportionately commit more crimes. Couldn't that explain? If you commit a crime, don't you go to jail? Yes. Okay, if black people are committing more crimes, wouldn't it make sense that they go to jail more often than other groups of people? Done. Boom, I have an argument. Right? This is why, like, when the left appeal to stats, oh, you guys don't follow the science. It's not that we don't follow the science or we're debunking statistics. It's just we don't think the statistics say what you think it says. My axiom has always been that data doesn't prove a narrative. Data only proves a result. And that's a fact. That's it. That's what it is. It only proves a result. You show me that black people have a different outcome than white people. That doesn't prove racism. That's the core of my whole entire argument. That's another cognitive dissonance. That is this false idea that, oh, we deserve equal outcome. When and ever in human history did anyone ever have equal outcomes across a society? Name me one. I'm waiting. Name me one. That's another cognitive dissonance. This idea that we all deserve equal outcomes. That's a communist socialist type of idea. And that's being conditioned in our school system as social emotional learning, as CRT, anti-racism. Teaching us that disparities are bad. When there's disparities even in your own family. Nobody in your family make the same amount of money. All of you guys went to different career fields, and just based on the fact that you went to different career fields automatically creates a disparity. The black community on average is younger than the white community. Did you know older people tend to make more money than younger people? Duh. Okay, so if the average age of white people is older than the average age of black people, couldn't that explain the disparity? Couldn't that explain the wealth gap in America? It's like people, this is what I'm talking about. People are not looking for root causes of problems. They're just looking for something to blame. And the minute they find a data set that even validates the look even looks like it proves their ideals or their narrative, they just run with it. And that's the problem in our politics today. This is how cognitive dissonance is affecting our culture war. Can we all agree that communism is basically slavery? We don't need to debate that long failed and move on from that. Exactly, Matthew M. Slavery is communism is slavery. Socialism is slavery. All you have to do is I forgot this guy's name again. His name is George Fitzhugh. He's been dubbed the Honest Socialist, and he made the argument during when black people were in chains. He made the argument how black people had it better in America than white people, because he said as a white person you're free, but you're also responsible for your own health care, your own hours. If you get hurt, the most risky jobs they'll send you, but the master, he has to take care of the slave from cradle to grave, his family, his health, and the master gets benefits from his labor. But he say it's equally exchangeable. George Fitzhugh, research him. It open your eyes. You'll be like, damn, socialism is slavery. This is why I laugh when I see like a black Marxist and he's talking about, oh, we need to usher in capitalism as a failed system. And I'm like, bruh, capitalism is like freeing yourself from the plantation. Hey, I have the freedom to try, freedom to buy, freedom to sell, and freedom to what? Fail. And if I do fail, it's because of this guy over here, this guy in the mirror. That's who fit. If I'm not making enough money, mostly my fault. I'll say like 80% is your fault. If I'm not happy with my income, who has to change that? Me, this guy over here, not some white person. Not to sit here and pretend that, oh, white people are oppressing me, even though Asians make the most money in our society. But this is the kind of brainwashing process I think that we're going through right now. But I digress. Let's continue.
Which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation.
Demoralize.
Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years.
TikTok can essentially, like, let's think about this in the context of TikTok in the background right now, right? Because he's talking about demoralizing a nation. How many years does that take? Let's think about TikTok and see if TikTok fits this bill.
Many years, because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by...
Which is true, because in college institutions, it's 12-to-1 ratio. Liberal versus conservative, in favor of the liberal. A lot of these academic professors are socialists, communists. They push this ideology on the youth in college when they're the most impressionable, right? And they're only exposed to their ideas. So they naturally become conditioned into Marxism. This is why I say the black community and the Marxism is not a natural fit. The only reason black community is overwhelmingly Marxist, like a lot of it's fashionable for black students to identify as Marxist, is because that's all they've been exposed to, right? The black community votes 90% for the Democratic Party. So they've been awash with liberal ideology, liberal policies. I'm telling you, since the 1960s, we've been going downhill.
By the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years. Actually, it's overfulfilled because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success.
Wow.
Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him.
Doesn't that sound like the left right now? You can tell them, hey, man, you can't be a woman. I seen it. Michael Knowles literally telling you, yo, you can't be a woman. You cannot be a woman. You're just pretending to be a woman. You're doing woman face. It's like they can't comprehend it. It's it's baffling to me. And it's scary too.
Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp,
that's not real
he
socialism.
to believe it until he's going.
That's the argument of it's not real socialism.
To receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes his balls, then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization.
Wow. We have been demoralized as a country, right? And I'm about to wrap up. I think I'm going to finish around 6. So I'm going to show you George Fitzhugh, who I mentioned earlier in the video, and I think I'll end it off there. Actually, no, I was supposed to do Destiny video, Honest Socialist. Give me a second, guys. I'm trying to find the guy for you. So this is from the Miss Institute. George Fitzhugh, the Honest Socialist. This is why. This is the okay. I'm gonna go over time because I think this is important to touch on. This is why black people shouldn't be socialist, right? Socialism in U.S. history. In the mid-19th century, debates over the virtue and evils of slavery. The argument from the pro-slavery Southerners, who were Democrats, by the way, evolved from a claim that slavery was a necessary evil, right? Just like what? Abortion is a necessary evil. And I made the argument that any argument you make for slavery, you could also make the same argument for abortion. Sorry, I flipped it. Any argument you can make for abortion, you can make the same argument for slavery. That it was a positive moral good. A large number of this evolution is in perspective was a reaction to the growing moral empathy towards slavery by the North, breeding the need from the Southern's perspective to find a defense of slavery that could counter the moral grounds. George Fitzhugh's defense of slavery was unique. He accepted the paternalist argument that the Southerners were increasingly adopting, specifically that slavery bettered the position of the slave. But he rejected the racial division that necessarily included in their arguments, which this is why I say slavery is socialism. In his infamous book, in his infamous publication, Sociology of the South, he wrote, "We abhor, I hate old English, the doctrine of the type of mankind first, because it was war with scripture, which was teaching us that the whole human race is descended from a common patronage. And secondly, because it encouraged and incite brutal masters to treat Negroes not as weak and ignorant and dependent brethren, but as wicked beasts without the pales of humanity." True to the racist view of the day, Fitzhugh did believe that blacks were weak, ignorant, and dependent. Doesn't that sound like the left today? I'm being honest with you. Doesn't that sound like the left today? Because if you believe someone was a weak, ignorant, and dependent people, you wouldn't believe that they had the ability to find their voter IDs. You wouldn't think they didn't have the ability to get into college without special treatment. You would believe that without affirmative action, they couldn't be successful in life. They couldn't be successful in this country. They still hold this view because it's socialist. It's a left-wing view of the superior race of whites. And I believe that white liberals, they believe they're superior. There was a study that came out that white liberals, and this is what made me a conservative, I think. White liberals dumb down their language when they're speaking based on the color of someone's skin. This is what happens when you see color, guys. This is what happens when you see color. You see a black man, a white liberal will dumb down their language because they perceive the black man to be what? Weak, ignorant, independent, and they themselves as the superior race. This is virtue signaling at its finest. Anyone is a college thing like that, and nope, they won't teach this in college. But his racism was part of the class analysis common to socialists. In other words, the benefits that he believed blacks gained from slavery would be applied to poor, less capable whites. Right? So he didn't make a race distinction. He made a class distinction. But in our day and age, race is equated to class in 2024. Okay, was it? I'm trying to find it. There he is. Here's the quote that I've been trying to find. Sorry, guys, it's been a long day. Fitzhugh was concerned with the labor questions that becoming a more prominent concern in Europe and U.S. political discourse. And like many people, he believed socialism to be the solution to labor concerns. Slavery was good, Fitzhugh made clear, because slavery is a form and the very best form of socialism. A quote from George Fitzhugh. Fitzhugh, unlike other sides of the slavery debate, offered no pretended love for liberty. The disassociation of labor and disintegration of society, he wrote, which liberty and free competition occurrence is especially injunction to the poor class. The burden of the poor, in Fitzhugh's eyes, were imposed by a system of free trade in which the poor man is burdened with the care of finding a home, procuring employment, attending to. So pretty much he was saying, yo, the slave got it better than you poor whites. You should be slaves too, because look what you have to do as a poor man in this country. As a poor man, you have to find your own house. As a poor man, you have to find your own employment. As a poor man, you have to find your own domestic wants and concerns. You have to figure out, pretty much Fitzhugh, to justify socialism, he made it seem that freedom was a negative thing. Oh, look at all the hardships you face with freedom. You have to stress about what kind of car you get. Can you afford the car? What kind of job that will allow you to get a house? You got to stress about all these things. All you have to do is be a slave to someone else. They'll dictate what car you drive. They dictate where you live, what you do for a job. This is anti-free will. Right? Because I believe the ultimate property rights starts from here. Your will. Your will is the first origin point of property rights. What I decide to do is my choice, but it's also my responsibility. If I decide to buy a house in a neighborhood and I find out the neighborhood has high rates of crime, I can't blame no one else but me, because I made the decision based on my will. And because I made the decision based on my will, it is my responsibility. And this is the cognitive dissonance that socialists has infected our culture with, that the left is infected with, progressives are affected with. Like, look at this. He's saying freedom is a drag, pretty much. The South held the solution for this poor, white, and blacks alike. Slavery relieves our slaves of these cares altogether. So he's trying to make the argument that, by slavery, you're liberated from what? Thinking for yourselves. Isn't that what they're doing right now in our school system right now? Just listen to authority. According to WHO, the World Health Organization, a trans woman can feed a baby with their breast milk without any issues. You're denying the fact about hormones and all this stuff. They don't want you thinking for yourselves. This is why left-wing media says it's a bad thing to do your own research, because doing your own research can lead to misinformation. Craziness. This is from the Ms. Institution. You guys want to watch the rest or read the rest yourselves, right? For all my live viewers, I'm gonna put it in the chat for you guys, right? If you guys want to read it yourselves, I dropped it in the chat for you guys. If you guys want to read it yourselves, you're more than able to read it yourself. And I kind of got sidetracked, but I think it was a good detour, because you guys get a more understanding of why I'm so against socialism. Right? In a country, right? Here's another example of cognitive dissonance. Argentina's monthly inflation rate. December, 25%. Inflation rate January 2024, 20%. February, 13%. Argentina has also just recorded its first budget surplus in 12 years. Argentina had 12 years of socialism. And in 3 months, look what Milei was able to do. But the cognitive dissonant leftists will not accept this as proof that there's something wrong, there's something flawed with socialism. They will not accept it. They was like, that wasn't real socialism. The excuses that they make. Right? And it's baffling to me how people can do this type of stuff. Right? And I don't understand the left. The left, it's baffling to me. So as I wrap up, I got 10 minutes left before I close out this stream. I hope you guys found it insightful. I hope you guys found it informative. And I want to just go dive into this debate with Destiny, Benny Johnson, and Dave Smith, a libertarian, a conservative, and a liberal all in the same room. What? And we'll hear some things, and I'll try to point out some things without interrupting the video too much because I'm short on time. So let's take a look.
Okay, but you're arguing with something I didn't say. I'm saying the official narrative was that it didn't come from the lab. If you get the vaccine, you cannot get it and you cannot transmit it. These were huge stories that were flatly wrong. No, you're shaking your head. That's not wrong.
The official position of the NIH or the government was not that if you get vaccinated, you will never transmit it and you will never get sick. I know that there is the one quote that people.
One thing about these debate bros is they always got to look at something, bro. I did this stream straight off the top of my head, pretty much, and I'm not looking at any reference points or whatever. But it's baffling how we didn't say that. We didn't say that if you got the COVID vax that you won't transmit COVID to other people. A lie. The cognitive dissonance. So you saying that was never said, Destiny? I'll let Destiny finish speaking and I'll show you some proof that goes contrary to what he's stating right now in this debate.
Fauci said that multiple times. For anybody that honestly followed any of that or saw all of his statements, nobody actually thought that. It is
What? No one actually thought that? Then why you threaten people's jobs with it? Oh, it's for public safety. You got to put you have to put your own interests aside for the good of people and the elderly. Media heads up and down was saying that was the number one reason why they push vaccine mandates, where they threatened that you will lose your job if you didn't get the vax because it was supposed to prevent transmission. That was the assumption that a lot of this COVID vax was pushed on people. Craziness. The cognitive dissonance here is baffling to me.
Fathomable to me that people that will make so many excuses for every single Trump gaffe will come out and take like 7 words quoted by the president and go, oh my God, Trump? They said the vaccine was 100%
straw manning.
It would never, that's unbelievable. Nobody really thought that. That's an unbelievable position.
Fine.
During 2021, we should be able to manufacture a lot of vaccines, and that vaccine,
the receipts come fast,
huh? To stop the transmission, to get the immunity levels up. So
I hope I don't get copyrighted for the music.
Almost no infection going on whatsoever. Everyone who takes the vaccine is not just protecting themselves, but reducing their transmission to other people and allowing society to get back to normal.
We can kind of almost see the end. We're vaccinating so very fast. Our data from the CDC today.
No one. They were joking. They didn't really mean it, right? But here they are, CDC director, March 29, 2021. Bro, I'm telling you, bro, you cannot trust people anymore, man. If someone try to put a framing on thing, hey, what's your proof for saying that? Oh, according to the NEA, NHS, I said, no, there was plenty of people saying otherwise, bro. And then he pretend, and the funny part, this is what I love about the left. They pretend you said something outrageous, like unbelievable, like there's no way you actually think this, do you? They always play this game. This is my problem with the left, that they don't care about finding the truth. They only care about convincing you of a narrative. That's it. That's their whole angle. Their whole angle is to get you to believe. That's why they're comfortable lying for a 30-minute interview, because they know most people won't go back and do any fact checking or do any information or any research after the fact. See, one thing about me, and one thing reason I started this channel as well, is that I want to show people more than I tell people. Hey, I say, hey, look, you may not agree with how I interpret this, but here's the data. You make up your own mind about it, but this is my mind about it, and then hopefully it sparks some curiosity in you to go figure stuff out for yourself. And that's what I encourage people to do. I don't encourage people to come here and think exactly like me about these issues. But what I do encourage is people that go out and find the information for themselves and make up their own minds about that. Because I believe if there was more individuals, more independent people, more high information individuals, we'll be a better nation overall, regardless of what final conclusions you come to. But I digress. I want to finish up the video.
Suggest, that vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick.
I think you need more than one sentence of a thing to see if they genuinely thought that the vaccine would be 100% prevent.
Now we know that the vaccines work well enough that the virus stops with every vaccinated person. A vaccinated person gets exposed to the virus.
See, that's what I'm talking about. But the opposite narrative was true. It seemed like the people who got vaccinated had a weaker immune system than people who didn't get vaccinated or who only had one shot. Because you've heard people, oh, I'm 5 times vaxxed. Oh, got COVID. Like, damn. I heard this dude only got vaxxed once, or this dude never got vaccinated. I haven't heard him complain about COVID yet. Cognitive dissonance. Because they're trying to get you to believe a narrative. And I think the source of cognitive dissonance is power, leverage. Hey, I just want power, and it happens to benefit me now to say this. Okay. There was a whole apology tour by the left saying, we apologize. COVID was kind of overreacting. You should forgive us. You should understand, we were scared or whatever. We kind of overreacted during COVID. Am I the only one who remembered that article? But here's Destiny. And this is why I don't like, sometimes I don't like a lot of liberals, because they base things on their imagination, right? They imagine what the world is, and then they try to purport it as reality. I suffer not from I suffer not from imagination, but from reality. The reality is y'all guys got it wrong, and y'all not humble enough to admit it. You got it wrong. That's the reality.
The virus does not.
Infection disease. So see what happens when you listen to the experts? The experts can get it wrong. Appeals to authority. People who didn't have credentials, people are like, yo, I don't think this COVID thing has nothing to work home about. I don't think I need to get vaccinated. Oh, you're not an expert? Yeah, but I'm pointing to evidence from someone with credentials saying that a natural immunity is a thing. Natural immunity can't stop COVID. What are you talking about? Natural immunity has always been a thing based on history. You see why they don't want you critically thinking? Because only critical thinking people can challenge authority. Only critical thinking people can understand that those in authority, experts, can get it wrong. And they can check, hey, expert, your job is to convince me, not tell me what to do. But I digress. I'm pausing it too much.
For their own protection.
This killed a lot of the expert class's credibility, right? Because they were pushing, oh, you can't get infected with COVID, whatever. People who've been advertising the vax say, oh, I got COVID, I have to put it out. Hey, I thought you couldn't get COVID anymore. What happened? And then a couple years later, after this is what I'm talking about with the left. All they need to do is maintain the narrative long enough for you to do what they want. Oh, look, we got 82% COVID rate. We're good. We're Gucci. Hey, YouTube, you better not take down my stream because I challenge authority. Because this is why institutions, the medical class, the expert class, this is why they lost credibility.
For the protection of their family, but I feel fairly certain you're not going to see the kind of surges we've seen in the past.
If you're vaccinated, you're not going to be hospitalized, you're not going to be in an ICU unit, and you're not going to die. You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
None of our vaccines are 100% effective or prevent the transmission of 100% of a disease if you caught it. There's no vaccine like that.
Wow. The left. And then he gets mad. Oh, you're virtue signaling off of this.
But you're arguing with
because you're lying. You're lying. Either that or you're ignorant and you're trying to pretend that you're knowledgeable. One of the two. But hey, I digress. I appreciate you guys for watching to the end of the stream. I really do appreciate you having guys along with me. We went through a whole tirade of Fani Willis, Chris Cuomo, the education system, socialism, how socialism is slavery. I appreciate you guys for giving me your time and your attention. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I hope to see you guys next week with Live with Kenny. I'm thinking about making this my permanent slot, 4:35. I feel like that's a good time for me to start because I have my kids and I kind of want to spend more time with them at the end of the day and at the end of the night with my wife. So I hope you guys appreciate the news. I appreciate you guys for attending and showing up, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Hope you guys have a good weekend. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.